All right, we are live. This is Jack from Fluency.com. Now, welcome to this English lesson where we're going to talk about why sometimes it's important to take a step back before moving forward. Okay, so this is an idiom, to take a step back, which means to move backwards when you're talking about it literally. But when we're talking about this as an idiom, it means to stop doing what you're doing, take a step back, move backwards, and think about what you should do next. And this is important in life and also in learning English. So I'm going to go through this concept, talk about this a little bit, talk about my life and when I like to do this, and then also relate this to learning English. Now, if you're new here, welcome to you. Subscribe to the channel, check out my podcast, the other lessons that I've done. And also, let me set this up, download this book. It's called The 5-Step Plan for English Fluency. And luckily for you, it is free to download. So you just need to click the link in the description and you can download that book. So yeah, today that's what we're going to talk about. Taking a step back to ensure that you are doing the right things. So we've got a lot of people joining live today. Hit that like button as well if you are here or if you're watching the replay. And be sure to engage in the chat with me. There will be a time at the end where you can ask questions about learning English. But for now, try and keep the messages on topic. Okay, on topic. All right, let's have a look at a couple of things first. So let's bring up my presentation. Here is something that I say all the time. Okay, just read this on the screen and then I'll read it to you. It says consistency is key. Consistency is key. And again, this is true in life and when it comes to learning English, because a lot of people think, okay, I want to learn English or learn a new skill. And what they'll do is do an intensive program. A good example for English learning is when people go to the UK or to the US or to Malta or Australia and take an English course in an English-speaking country. And they'll do this for 2 weeks and they'll have lots of lessons every day, study hard, lots of hours. But when they come back after that trip, they just go back to their normal life and they don't get anything out of it. They'll learn a few things, but they won't really retain that knowledge and they won't make progress after they come back. Because again, consistency is key. In order to make progress with something that is as complex and as big as learning English, then you need to be consistent on a daily basis. So I talk about this a lot. Consistency is key. Consistency is so important when it comes to reaching a high level of English. However, there is an however statement here. However, doing the wrong things consistently is wrong. Doing the wrong things consistently is wrong. Let's talk about learning the guitar. So if I'm going to learn the guitar, I need to practice every day or 3 times a week consistently over a year or 2 years in order to get to a level I want to reach. But if I do the wrong things, if I'm not doing the right things, if I'm not learning guitar in the right way, and I'm getting into bad habits, then I'm not going to reach the level I want to reach. And this is basically talking about how it's important to do the right things consistently. Consistency is key, but you have to do the right things. And another way to think about it is this. All right, do you know what this is called? Do you know what this is called? I'm going to put it in the chat box. This is called a maze. Now, if you're watching the replay, you can also see the live chat after the fact. So you can see the live chat here too. But this is called a maze, okay? And these are quite fun to do. You can take your pen and use the paper and try to start at one end and then get to the other end. But if you start a maze and if you go the wrong way, you need to go back to the beginning and start again. Because you can't just keep, and I'm going to turn my screen on now. If you hit a wall in that maze, then you have to retrace your steps, step back, go to the start, and then take a different direction. And I think this is important when it comes to life too and learning English, that if you've started a task, but you are stuck, you're hitting the wall, which is another idiom. To hit a wall means that you can't continue progressing, or you're stuck, which means you can't get past that wall. Then it's important to, okay, let's go back. Let's take a little break and let's think about a different direction. Let's think about trying to do something else. It's important here as well. So here's the statement I want to get through. Take a step back and think about what works. So to take a step back and think about what works. This is something I'm doing in my life when it comes to fitness as well, because I won't go into the details and tell you everything about it. But basically, I've been doing training over the last few years, specific training programs. And what I realized is I wasn't really progressing anymore. And I was working harder, but I was starting to get injured. I started to get bad results. So what I did was I took a step back, did some research, and now I'm on different programs which are really helping. And I've seen some great initial success from it. I'm not working as hard in terms of being out of breath, in terms of my intensity when I'm training, but I'm getting better results. So what I did was I took a step back. I'll show you this again. I took a step back and I researched. I thought about what I want, what works, and what was going to work for me. And I want you to do this with your English. I've mentioned this in a few lessons in the past where I say consistency is key, but also be sure that what you're doing is working. Because if you're consistently doing the wrong things, then you're not going to make the progress you want to make. So that's such an important concept to think about here, that you need to be consistently doing the right things. And sometimes you need to take a step back. So while I've got you here, because this is a live lesson, I want to know what are you doing right now to improve your English? So let me know in the chat box. Let me know 3 or 4 things that you're doing right now that you're working on with your English. What methods are you using? Let me know in the chat box. If you're watching the replay, let me know in the comment section, because I want to know what people are doing in order to improve. I have thoughts. My channel is all about using the right methods to help you improve, okay? And we're going to talk about those methods soon. And also just talk about why people hit a wall, hit that sticking point. They get stuck. They're not progressing anymore when they're learning English. But I'd love to know what kind of methods that you use. So some comments is just starting to come in now. And I'll say hi to people in the chat. So Christina's here, Saron, Aditya, Naza, Lolly from France, who's a member here. Great to have you back, Lolly. So Hassan says, I watch everything in English. Okay, which is great. Fantastic. We can talk about that method in more detail too. We can talk about that method in more detail because there are ways to make that more effective. But everyone else, let me know what you're doing right now to improve your English. There are things like going to language schools, doing verb patterns, all that kind of stuff, taking YouTube lessons. So Claudia says reading in English, listening and writing, watching movies and reading books, listening to a lot of things in English, says Saron, which is great. So a lot of people are saying, basically here, input, the input side. Watch videos I like and I learn new vocabulary from that. Talk to friends in English, listen to podcasts. I read books. Rebecca is here from Peru. Good to have you. So a lot of people are saying, yeah, watching English videos. I write about how my day was. So what people are saying here is input, which just means like you are reading, listening, watching. You're absorbing English, which is great. Now, what you can do here is take a step back and think about whether how you're doing this is correct. Okay? How you are watching, listening, and reading is correct. Because I talk about the input hypothesis method, which is by Dr. Krashen. And it's basically talking about how the type of input that you have is important too. Because you want to have comprehensible input. Stuff, listen to stuff, read stuff that you can more or less comprehend. And then you can learn new vocabulary from that. But it's important to get that type of input. And I say that because let's say you have an A2 level of English, but you're listening to regular English and you don't understand anything. That isn't the most efficient way. So you can take a step back and say, okay, let's get some audiobooks. Let's read some books that are made for the A2 or the B1 level, where you're reading things that are more comprehensible, which means you can understand what's happening. So that's one way to take a step back and think, okay, should I be listening to this podcast? What could I listen to instead? What would be more effective? Let's see. So someone says, I haven't seen you in a while. Where have you been? Yeah, I've been making some podcasts recently. Got a new podcast coming soon. But how to really improve our vocabulary with books, in your opinion? Go to my channel and research the reading method, to Fluency reading method. Let's see. I practiced listening and reading, writing and speaking on the other day. I am late. I enjoy your videos. Thanks, Alexis. So if you're just joining, we're talking about how consistency is key, but sometimes you need to take that step back in order to think about what if what you're doing is working right now. Okay, I'll just go back over a couple of key points again. Go back here. So again, take a step back and think about what works, because doing the wrong things consistently is wrong. And this is what leads to cycles of learning, what I call a cycle of learning, where you start learning English, you feel very enthusiastic about it, but in 3 to 6 weeks, you feel down about your English because you don't feel like you're progressing. You feel like you're working hard, but it's not working. And a lot of the time, it's not about working harder. It's about changing what you do and working smarter. And then once you have a very effective learning plan, that's when you can do more of it, because that's when you're going to get more results. Because doing more of the wrong things is not going to help you. Okay. So, in my latest podcast episode, and if you haven't listened to it, it's here on YouTube. I talked about how it's important as well to do the hard things, because a lot of the time the hard things are the things that are going to push us forward. Now again, it's not about listening to things that you can't understand, but it's mainly talking about things that where you really have to focus and do stuff that gets you out of your comfort zone. Because a lot of people do the input, they get the input, they listen, they watch, etc., because it's a little easier to do. But other things doing the hard things are more important if you want to make that progress. So things like I talk about the LRC method, and instead of me going through these methods, again, go to my channel homepage and watch the featured video. So go check that out. But it's all about doing things that you know are going to move you forward. Now, going back to this, we just talked about the cycles of learning, and that you start off, you have that motivation, but then after 3 to 6 weeks, you feel down about your English or about studying, mainly because people put in the hard work, but they don't get the results from it. So again, how to know if something's working? Test yourself. Do a test. After 3 to 6 weeks, test yourself. Because an issue with learning English is that a lot of it is gradual, where you're learning, let's just say 10 new words a day. And the way you say the words is improving by 1% every day. And it's very difficult to notice how you improve on a day-to-day basis. But a good idea is to record yourself speaking, and then 6 weeks later, record yourself speaking again and listen to the two and notice if you've made some changes. You can do this with a teacher too, where you speak to a teacher and say, okay, test me. And then 3 to 6 weeks later, have the teacher listen to you again and see if you've made those improvements. That's one way to do it. Another way to test yourself is learning new words. Test how much you have learned. So think about, okay, how many new words have I learned? Make a note of it. If you use Anki, this is about just how many new phrases you've learned that you can memorize now. Or if you're using a notebook, how many phrases you notice in your notebook that you can understand. All this kind of stuff is a way for you to know if you are improving. But I think on the whole as well, sometimes you just know. Sometimes you just have that feeling and just say, oh yeah, I know I've improved. I can understand more. I feel more confident when I speak. I'm understanding more when I listen to podcasts. All that kind of stuff. Okay, let's go back to the comments a little bit. It's a long process and you have to be patient to progress. Yeah, this is the key. This is so important. It's that balance between, I'm going to put this in the chat, balance between patience and changing when it isn't working. So that balance between being patient, but also changing what you're doing if it's not working. And it's not always a case of making massive changes. Maybe it's about changing the podcast you're listening to, or changing the type of books you're reading, changing the method you do, or maybe doing a little bit more of one method. For some people, it's about making huge changes. For example, maybe stop going to a language school and learning on your own instead, which is a big change. Or stopping learning grammar books and go to more of a natural immersion method. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small. Someone says here, GD, it's like when you start a sport, you can't get all the skills after 3 weeks. It's the same for language, same for cooking, gardening, playing music, anything else. Yeah, these skills are big. They're complex, and to master things like language, music, sport, it takes a long time. But 2 things about that: be prepared for the journey, be prepared for this process, but also realize that life gets better when you make small improvements. So if you improve the way you play the guitar and you can play a new song, life is better because now you can play that song. If it's sport, if you can now throw a ball in a certain way, then life is better because now you can do this, and before you couldn't do that. Alexis says, I think that reading and listening are the most important ways of learning a language due to the fact that they provide the input the learner needs to speak appropriately. Yeah, that's why. So I just think the LRC method, the imitation method, is the strongest because it uses all 4 skills at the same time. So when you're reading and listening to a sentence, you're getting the input. When you're repeating it, you're getting that speaking practice and the fluency practice and accuracy. And then you can also write this word down, which means you're getting the writing practice. That's why I think it's one of the best ones. The thing is, the fact that the words come up in our mind unconsciously. To succeed, I think we should listen and read. Yep, exactly. This is where you want to be. And using this method again allows you to just have these phrases come to you naturally. That's what is so great about it, is that if you repeat certain sentences and listen to them and read them over and over again, and then you see other sentences, then you can take the chunks from this sentence with this one, and it all happens in a natural way. The issue with learning through grammar is that sometimes you can get stuck on this thinking about the grammar rules and trying to form sentences from grammar rules. Whereas if you learn through the imitation method and lots of input, then these grammar rules are learned naturally, and you can just speak accurately and fluently without thinking about those grammar rules. Instead, you just know them and you can say them. So Armando says, what happens to me is that I do a lot of reading and listening, but not much of speaking and writing, which is quite common. It's quite common, and this happens a lot. But again, using this method, the LRC method, using Anki, you can practice the writing and the speaking on your own. Okay. I also recommend getting some natural speaking practice just in general. But yeah, those two work really well. Okay, that's the lesson I wanted to teach today. Now we're going to get into questions and answers. So this is when you can ask me any question you want within reason. Nazar has a question. What time is it now in your country? It is 1:23 p.m. We are early afternoon and it is a beautiful day. So after this, I might do a little bit of sport outside, get some sun. Love to get some sun. Sun is the key. Learn English in the sun. I think that's another thing, is sometimes we get stuck in our environment. So maybe we're in our study, in our bedroom, always studying the same, and you're not moving your body. Sometimes go for a walk and listen to a podcast, as long as you can do it safely. I have a problem with vocabulary. What is the best way to memorize them? That method again. I just recommend everyone go to my homepage after this and watch that featured video. I make it the featured video because I think it's probably the most important video I have, because this is going to help you use this method so that you can get the reading and listening and everything else and the imitation to really move your English forward. And I recommend trying this out for 3 to 6 weeks consistently, and then hopefully you realize, and it happens to you, where this really just transforms your English and it gives you the motivation to invest more time in the method and in your English in general. And people asking about memorizing phrasal verbs, same method as well. Like, learn them in context, learn them well, learn them through sentences. That's how you're going to memorize them, internalize them. So we've got Enoch from Venezuela. Alexis is from Venezuela too. Yukitan is from the United Kingdom. Great to have you here. People asking, where's the video? Well, go watch that video after this lesson. All you need to do is, I'll show you on my phone. See if I can do this. Where you just go to my channel and search for Fluency. I mean, you're already on my channel now. And if you go to my homepage, okay, it's the playlist here, all right? So at the moment, it's saying this is my video, it's live. And if you scroll down, it's that second video. Here we go. That should focus there. So it's that second video. It's got a notification. Second video, where it's called #1 Technique for Learning New English Words and Phrases. So go watch that after this video. I think when we're not able to speak in the second language, although the amount of words we have, we can also we also can't speak in our native language. Do you agree with this point? Yeah, there are many times when it's difficult to speak in your own language, or it's difficult to find the right words and phrases. And it's important to be aware of that, to be aware of the fact that we don't always choose the right words and phrases. We make mistakes, we don't use the right grammar, we stutter, we mispronounce words. I mean, we all do it in our native language. George, thank you so much for the kind donation here. I watch English TV series on a daily basis. However, I reckon my English isn't going anywhere at all. I hope your today's lesson will help me. Again, thank you so much for that kind donation. It's very kind of you. Yeah, this is, yeah, you can end up doing a lot of input, but it's a little bit, it's not completely like, but it's a little bit like researching how to play soccer or football. Let's call it football. How to play football, watching videos on football, reading books and playing football, but not actually practicing. It's not exactly the same. It's not exactly the same, because the input is also training your ability to learn English and understand words and phrases. Whereas with soccer, your soccer game doesn't improve by watching videos. But it's similar in the sense of you need to practice and use your mouth and use your hand to write or your fingers to type in order to improve that stage. So yeah, George, definitely check out that video that I've been talking about and try that method for 5 to 10 minutes a day. And thanks again for the donation. I really appreciate that. Now, Daniel says, I feel that my level has ups and downs depending if I have the chance to speak with natives or not, because they are not in my daily environment. How can I maintain a certain level? That's a great question. So ups and downs, when you feel like things are going well and things are going bad, and this can happen to everyone, where one day you're thinking, I feel great. I feel like I'm a good football player today. And then the next day you feel, I'm terrible. I can't run. I can't shoot. I can't pass. Same with English. You have a day when you think, I just understood everything that person said. But then the next day you have a bad day and you don't understand someone and you feel down. But I think your question's more about that maintenance of your level. And if you don't have that ability to speak with people, I recommend using the method I've talked about, but also finding someone to chat to, finding a language exchange, getting a teacher, just to get that daily, not daily, but maybe a weekly practice where you're just using your English in a way that makes sense. And then on top of that, change your environment into English as much as you can. Enoch says, do you think your techniques are useful to learn other languages as well? Yeah, this is how I got to a high level of Spanish a few years ago. I just follow these methods, and that's why I'm passionate about them, because I know they work. Ivor is here from Munich. How cool. I visited Munich in 2002, I think, nearly 20 years ago. I had the best time in Munich. What a great city. It was so much fun. I visited a friend from university and Oh, I just had such a good time there. It was one of my best vacations, one of my best holidays. I'd love to go back. Dario says, I'm B2, but I can't give indications when a friend is parking. It's quite specific, Dario. Yeah, when a friend is parking. Maybe just learn the phrases you need to learn about that, where you can look at, okay, it's not an easy thing either to explain when someone's parking, because there's some technical language and, you know, it's like steer left, steer right, watch out for this, reverse this way, leave more space. What you could do is look up parking instructional videos on YouTube where people go through how to park properly, and then you can learn the words and phrases from those videos. Miss Barr says, I know so many expressions, phrases, and a bunch of chunks of vocabulary, but when I talk to someone in person, it just flashes before my mind. Please tell me something I could do about it. I think this sounds like you just need a bit more practice and a few more situations where you're doing this. Again, know that this happens in native language too, and there's not always an easy way to talk about things and express yourself. But it does sound like you need to practice a bit more, and also just keep learning chunks. Learn them in context too, so that you know when to use the right sentence at the right time. A love from Brazil. Good to have you here. And always the powerful motivation is to remember your why. Najeb is here. Najeb's been here since I started this channel 7 years ago. So it's good to have you back. Yeah. And the why is important. It's the motivation to keep you going. You know, if you don't have a motivation to do something, you're not going to do it. That's for everything. If you have zero motivation to do something, you're not going to do it. It's true of everything. It's true of everything. So the motivation to learn is why. And I talk about how you need to take that motivation, really get excited about doing something, but then transfer that motivation into habits and daily practice and consistency. Because motivation can come and go. You feel motivated one day and then you're not a month later. As someone says, how to remotivate yourself while feeling discouraged. I think it's important to go back to your why, and also to realize why you are discouraged. And people tend to feel discouraged because what they're doing isn't working, they're not happy with their progress, or what they're doing isn't enjoyable. And the enjoyable thing is, it's a strange one, because even though the sound of like repeating sentences and phrases, it doesn't sound so enjoyable, but you can make it enjoyable. You can make it fun. You can enjoy it. You can really just give your energy to it. But I think the main reason something isn't enjoyable is because what you're doing isn't working. For another example is, you know, for my sports training, when I am doing something that I know that's working, even though my body is aching, I feel so tired, it's still enjoyable because it's fun and I know what I'm doing is working. Your video about how to read books correctly is the best. Thank you. I really think that video is important. Just look up reading method to fluency after this. Reading method to fluency. I think there's a video from 2017 there that it's good to have. Yeah. Let's see. Without motivation, you can't do very much. Yeah, it's true. It's everything. Like, if you have no motivation to earn money, then you won't go to work. If you have zero motivation to earn money, and to work, then you just don't do it. If you have zero motivation to go to university, you don't go to university. There's also just like, if you have no motivation to brush your teeth, you don't brush your teeth. You need to be motivated to do it. You know, even if that motivation is due to fear, but there has to be motivation for you to do everything in life. Have you pronounced the T in motivation? Didn't hear it. Yeah, sometimes it's that glottal T, motivation, motivation, which is very common, especially in British English. Akhilesh talks about shadowing. Yeah, I always play your video and start shadowing. Shadowing's great, especially if you can. The key to shadowing is finding audio that you can easily repeat, because if you can't repeat it, you tend to just mumble. So find stuff that you can easily repeat. What's your opinion about the IELTS and the TOEFL exam? I haven't really looked into them much over the last 5 to 10 years or 5 years. So, but I know they're becoming more popular and more people need to take them. So they're important. Jahan says, you helped me a lot by watching your videos. Thanks a lot. It's my pleasure. It's my first time joining the live lesson. David says, how are you doing? I'm doing all right, actually. Yeah, doing okay at the moment. Yeah, doing well. Doing well. Thanks for answering my question. Keep up. We really love you. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to end that there. Your homework is to watch the reading method and also the #1 technique that I recommend. If you just go to my homepage again on my channel, you'll see the playlist for those types of things. Now, I'm going to make more podcast episodes. I've recently signed a contract to distribute my podcasts to different platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, whatever it is on Google. That's going to be happening within the next 3 to 4 weeks. I'm very excited about that because I've been wanting to do that for a while. And I'm excited to give you the opportunity to listen to my podcasts that aren't just on YouTube. So this week I'm going to record more episodes. Again, if you're new here, if you don't have it already, get my book, The 5-Step Plan for English Fluency. There is a link in the description so you can download that. And I'll answer one last question before I go. Nigora says, is it correct to pronounce bon appetit in British English? Some people say bon appetit. Is that right? We say bon appetit or bon appetit. Bon appetit, bon appetit. I think most people say bon appetit, which we say in English. Okay. Again, thank you for spending this time with me.